The sound of tiny fists pounding desperately against wood echoed through the silent hallway. Please, please let me out. A trembling child's voice cracked from exhaustion. Inside a dark guest bathroom, 7-year-old Hana curled tightly into herself, her tiny knees pressed against her chest as tears soaked the sleeves of her dress. She had stopped screaming loudly almost an hour ago. Now, only weak sobs escaped her lips. Her breathing was uneven, fast, panicked. The darkness was swallowing her whole. Outside the locked door stood a woman in a white silk dress, arms folded elegantly as if she were admiring artwork. No guilt, no hesitation, only irritation. You should have learned obedience sooner. Her voice was cold enough to freeze blood. A few steps away, a tray suddenly slipped from someone's trembling hands. Crash. Glass shattered violently against the marble floor. The woman turned sharply. Standing there was Aliya. The young African maid stared in horror, her entire body frozen as realization hit her. The faint banging, the muffled crying, the locked door. Her lips parted. No. Her breathing quickened. And just as panic exploded through her chest, a black armored luxury vehicle rolled slowly through the mansion gates. The Mafia boss had returned home early, but what he was about to witness would change everything. If you love Korean billionaire romance and Mafia love stories like this, subscribe now to @Physial_Threads and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Aliya never imagined her life would lead her here. Not inside one of Seoul's wealthiest mansions. Not working for one of South Korea's most feared men. And definitely not becoming the only source of comfort for a broken little girl trapped in a home overflowing with luxury, but starved of love. Before South Korea, life had already taught Aliya how cruel the world could be. She was born in Lagos, raised by a hard-working single mother who sold fabrics in crowded markets. Life wasn't glamorous, but there was dignity, warm meals, laughter, community. Then everything collapsed. Her mother became ill. Medical bills piled up. Savings disappeared. And within months, Aliya found herself completely alone. No inheritance. No safety net. No privileged uncle waiting to rescue her. Just grief and survival. So when an overseas agency offered her domestic work opportunities in South Korea, she accepted immediately. Not because it was glamorous, but because hunger is persuasive. Seoul was colder than she imagined. Not just the weather. Everything. The people moved quickly. Buildings towered over her like polished machines. And loneliness followed her into every small rented room. Restaurants. Laundry services. Childcare. Anything. Until one opportunity changed her life. Private live-in maid. Salary triple her current income. Luxury accommodation. Discretion required. No personal questions. Aliya knew jobs like this came with complications. But desperation doesn't negotiate. She accepted. That decision brought her to the home of Kang Min-Jae, a name that made even wealthy men lower their voices. To the public, Kang Min-Jae was an elite CEO, chairman of the Kang Group, a ruthless businessman with unmatched negotiation instincts. But the city whispered another story, a darker one. They said behind corporate meetings and polished press conferences existed a man who controlled an underground empire spanning gambling, private security, debt networks, and black market logistics. No one could prove it. No one dared try. Min-Jae was 34. Tall, broad-shouldered, sharp jawline, dark eyes that always looked like they were calculating 10 moves ahead. He wore emotional distance like armor. Women admired him. Men feared him. Employees respected him from a safe distance. And yet, inside his mansion, his personal life was quietly collapsing. 3 months earlier, tragedy struck. His foster sister, Kang Eun-hee, died in a fatal accident. To outsiders, she was merely family. But to Min-Jae, she was everything. Not by blood, but by bond. When his own parents neglected him emotionally, Eun-hee had been the first person to treat him like a human being instead of an heir. She was warmth, compassion, home. Losing her fractured something inside him permanently. But her death left behind something else. Her daughter, Hana, a 7-year-old child forced into grief far too early. Small, silent, and visibly traumatized. Min-Jae brought her into his mansion immediately. It wasn't charity. It was duty. A promise. But what he failed to calculate was the emotional war already waiting inside his own home. His wife hated the child. Yoon So-ra was beautiful enough to stop conversations. Former model, luxury brand ambassador, social darling, always dressed impeccably, always smiling for cameras. But behind closed doors, her beauty felt decorative, like expensive glass, cold and sharp. At first, she pretended well. In public, she performed affection flawlessly, holding Hana's hand during public events, kissing Min-Jae's cheek for cameras, posting elegant family moments online. But inside the mansion, different story. The mask slipped quickly. She hated Hana, not because the child had done anything wrong, but because Hana represented emotional competition. Min-Jae had become increasingly protective since the girl moved in. His attention shifted. His priorities shifted. Even his legal advisors began discussing trust funds and guardianship planning. And in So-ra's mind, that meant one thing. Threat. Threat to inheritance. Threat to status. Threat to control. So she targeted the weakest people first. Hana. And eventually, Aliya. Aliya's first day in the mansion felt strange. The house was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Imported marble. Modern art. A staircase so large it felt theatrical. Yet despite all the wealth, something about the mansion felt deeply uncomfortable. Too quiet. Too controlled. Like everyone was performing normalcy. She was introduced to staff quickly. Cook. Driver. Security team. House manager. Minimal conversation. Minimal warmth. Then she saw Hana. The child stood halfway hidden behind a pillar near the staircase, holding a stuffed rabbit with worn ears. Big eyes. Small shoulders. Aliya smiled gently. Hi. Hana blinked. Said nothing. Then disappeared. Aliya smiled to herself. Scared child. Understood. Moments later, heels clicked sharply against marble. So-ra appeared. Even from a distance, her presence felt intimidating. She scanned Aliya from head to toe. You're the new maid? Yes, ma'am. You speak Korean? A little. That will be enough. No smile. No welcome. Only assessment. Like examining furniture. You'll handle child supervision when necessary, cleaning duties, and anything else requested. Yes, ma'am. So-ra leaned closer. One more thing. Aliya looked up. Know your place. Then she walked away. Simple. Clear. A warning disguised as instruction. The first week passed quietly. Aliya worked hard. Very hard. She woke before sunrise. Prepared breakfast trays. Managed laundry. Cleaned multiple floors. Helped organize guest rooms. Maintained floral arrangements. Ironed linens. Nothing unusual. But gradually, the cruelty began. Small at first. Intentional. Subtle enough to deny. So-ra would call Aliya over only to dismiss her immediately. Criticize folded towels. Complain about invisible dust. Change instructions halfway through tasks. One afternoon, So-ra deliberately knocked a vase from a side table. Crash. Ceramic exploded. She looked at Aliya. Kneel. Aliya frowned slightly. Ma'am. Kneel and clean it. Aliya slowly lowered herself. Then noticed the fragments. Sharp. Everywhere. No gloves. No brush. Nothing. Understanding hit instantly. This wasn't cleaning. This was punishment. Humiliation. She hesitated only briefly before obeying. Her knees touched marble. Then shards. Pain shot through her immediately. Tiny cuts opened across skin. Warm blood appeared. But Aliya kept going. Quietly. No tears. No complaint. Across the hallway, small footsteps stopped. Hana watched. Frozen. Aliya noticed but kept cleaning. Minutes later, after So-ra left, Hana approached silently. In her tiny hand was a cartoon bandage. Aliya looked up. For me? Hana nodded shyly. Aliya smiled. That was the first crack in Hana's emotional wall. And from that moment, everything slowly changed. Days passed. Hana began following Aliya. At first from a distance. Then closer. Standing beside her while she watered plants. Watching her fold clothes. Sitting nearby while Aliya peeled fruit. Eventually, questions began. Where are you from? Nigeria. Is it far? Very far. Do you miss it? Aliya smiled softly. Yes. Hana thought for a moment. I miss my mom too. That sentence nearly shattered Aliya. Children should not say sentences that heavy. Not like that. Not so calmly. Aliya crouched slightly. Your mom loved you very much. Hana's eyes watered. How do you know? Because I can tell. The child stared at her for several seconds, then quietly hugged her. Not tightly, not dramatically, just enough to say, I need someone. And Aliya understood. From that day onward, Hana attached herself to Aliya emotionally. Aliya brushed her hair, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, sat beside her during nightmares. And gradually, tiny changes appeared. Hana smiled more, ate better, spoke slightly louder, even laughed occasionally. And unfortunately, Soare noticed. One evening during dinner, Min-Jae returned unusually early. He entered the dining room and paused. Hana was eating properly, not nervously picking food apart, not shrinking into herself, actually eating. He sat down slowly, observed quietly. Something had changed. Later that night, he walked through the library and found something unexpected. Aliya sat asleep on a sofa. Hana lay curled beside her, fast asleep with her head resting against Aliya's arm. A blanket covered both of them. The sight stopped him cold. He simply stared. This was new. Peace. Calm. Comfort. His niece hadn't looked this relaxed since the funeral. Aliya stirred awake. Immediately stood. I'm sorry, sir. Min-Jae glanced at Hana. She sleeps easier now. Aliya nodded. She feels safer. He studied her face carefully. Noticed exhaustion. Gentleness. Quiet strength. Not performance. Not manipulation. Just sincerity. Something unfamiliar stirred in him. Respect. But what he didn't know was that someone else was watching from the hallway. Soare. And jealousy was already growing. The next morning, punishment arrived. Aliya entered the kitchen to find breakfast missing. No tray. No food allocation. She asked the cook quietly. The older woman looked uncomfortable. Madam said no breakfast for you. Aliya nodded. Understood. Same thing. Dinner? Nothing. No proper meals. Only water and scraps she secretly saved from fruit preparation. Yet she endured. Because quitting meant abandoning Hana. And that was no longer an option. Their bond had deepened too much. One afternoon, Hana accidentally spilled orange juice on an expensive rug. A harmless mistake. Normal child behavior. But Soare exploded. Her scream echoed through the mansion. What did you do? Hana froze instantly. I'm sorry. You ruined everything. She grabbed Hana's wrist aggressively. The child gasped. Aliya rushed over. Please, she didn't mean to. Stay out of this. Sora's glare was lethal. She dragged Hana away. Aliya felt immediate dread. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Minutes later, a faint sound. Knocking. From upstairs. Aliya paused. Listened. Knock, knock, knock. Tiny. Weak. Then crying. She followed the sound. Guest hallway. End corridor. Bathroom door. Locked. Hana. Immediate sobbing. Aliya, please let me out. Aliya's blood ran cold. What happened? She locked me in. Breathing. Fast. Panicked. It's dark. Then Aliya remembered. The child's trauma. Weeks earlier, Hana once whispered through tears that during the accident which killed her mother, she had been trapped briefly in a narrow, overturned vehicle. Darkness. Enclosed space. No escape. Ever since then, closed spaces triggered severe panic attacks. Oh no. Aliya pounded the door. Hana, stay with me. Inside, crying worsened. Aliya ran downstairs. Found Soare calmly seated with tea. You locked her in there? Soare took a sip. She needs discipline. She has trauma. She's dramatic. Aliya stared. Disbelief. Rage. Weeks of humiliation crashed together all at once. She could get hurt. Sora's expression hardened. Careful. Aliya stepped closer. No, you be careful. That surprised even Soare. Aliya's voice shook, but not from fear anymore. You can punish me, starve me, humiliate me, but hurting a child. She shook her head. No. Soare stood slowly. You forget who you are. Aliya stared directly at her. And you forgot what being human means. Silence. Electric. Dangerous. Then Soare smiled. A terrifying smile. You're fired. Aliya laughed once. Softly. Unexpectedly. Then fire me after I get her out. And she ran. Back upstairs. Straight to the locked bathroom. She grabbed a heavy decorative stand. And slammed it into the lock. Once. Twice. Again. Wood cracked. Metal bent. Inside, Hana's cries weakened. Aliya, stay awake. Another slam. The frame splintered. One final hit. Crash. The door burst inward. Aliya rushed inside, then froze. Hana lay unconscious on the tiled floor. Pale. Still. Too still. Aliya dropped instantly. Hana. Nothing. Her hands shook violently. No, no, no. Then footsteps thundered through the mansion. Deep. Fast. Heavy. A familiar voice echoed downstairs. Kang Min-Jae is home. Aliya looked toward the hallway in panic. And that was the moment everything changed. The sound of hurried footsteps thundered through the marble hallway. Kang Min-Jae had barely stepped into the mansion when he sensed something was terribly wrong. The atmosphere felt off. Not the usual sterile silence of his home. This was chaos. Fear. Panic. A staff member rushed downstairs, face pale. Sir. But Min-Jae didn't wait. He heard it. Aliya's voice. Shaking. Desperate. Hana, please wake up. His expression changed instantly. He took the stairs 2 at a time. By the time he reached the guest hallway, the scene before him made his blood run cold. The bathroom door was broken off its hinges. Wood splintered across the floor. Aliya knelt on the cold tiles, clutching Hana's limp body in her arms. Her face was streaked with tears. Her hands were trembling uncontrollably. And a few feet away stood Yoon So-Are, perfectly composed, watching. Like this was all merely inconvenient. For one terrifying second, Min-Jae couldn't process what he was seeing. Then instinct took over. He rushed forward immediately, dropping to his knees. What happened? His voice was low. Too low. Dangerously controlled. Aliya looked up at him, breathing unevenly. She was locked in here. Min-Jae's face hardened. What? Aliya struggled to speak through panic. She has claustrophobia. She was trapped in the dark for hours. Hours. You hit me. Her voice trembled. She sounded less angry than disbelieving, as though the universe had violated her expectations. Min-Jae's expression didn't change. You nearly killed her. You're overreacting. That sentence sealed her fate. Min-Jae laughed once. A short, humorless sound. Overreacting. His niece was unconscious. A child already shattered by grief and trauma. And this woman, his wife, still believed herself to be the victim. He reached inside his suit jacket, pulled out a folded envelope, and dropped it at her feet. The papers scattered across the marble floor. So-Are stared downward. Then her face changed. Divorce papers. Prepared. Signed. Ready. Her head snapped upward. You planned this. Min-Jae's jaw tightened. Not because of today. He looked at her with chilling clarity. Today only confirmed what I already suspected. For the first time in years, So-Are looked genuinely afraid. Not performatively upset. Not theatrically offended. Afraid. You can't divorce me over this. Min-Jae's expression was unreadable. No. He corrected her. I'm divorcing you because today I finally saw your real face. Her breathing became shallow. You're choosing that child over me? He stared, then answered with brutal honesty. Yes. The word hit harder than the slap. So-Ra's composure cracked. This is insane. She ruined our marriage. No. His voice remained calm. You did. He turned to security. Remove her. So-Are laughed nervously. Min-Jae, stop being ridiculous. No one moved. Security hesitated. Not because they disagreed, but because removing the lady of the house was unprecedented. Min-Jae glanced at them once. That was enough. Now, 2 guards stepped forward. So-Ra's eyes widened. You can't do this. She jerked away from them. This is my home. Min-Jae looked at her coldly. It was. And just like that, her kingdom collapsed. No dramatic negotiation. No second chances. No redemption arc. Only consequences. As security escorted her downstairs, she screamed threats. Lawyers. Scandal. Media exposure. Inheritance claims. Nothing mattered. Min-Jae ignored every word. His focus had already shifted. Back to Hana. He crouched beside Aliya again. We're going to the hospital. Aliya nodded quickly, still visibly shaken. Min-Jae carefully lifted Hana into his arms. The little girl looked heartbreakingly small against his broad frame. And for the first time in a very long while, fear crossed his face. Real fear. Not business risk. Not rival threats. Personal fear. Because if anything happened to this child, he would never forgive himself. Not after failing his foster sister. Not after promising to protect what she left behind. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Aliya sat in the back seat beside Hana, holding her tiny hand. Min-Jae remained silent. But tension radiated off him so intensely, it was almost physical. His knuckles were white, jaw clenched, eyes fixed forward. And beneath all of it, guilt. Violent, suffocating guilt. How had he missed this? How long had it been happening? How much suffering had occurred right under his roof? Questions attacked him relentlessly. He had built empires, controlled markets, managed dangerous alliances. Yet somehow, he failed to protect a grieving child living inside his own home. That realization was unbearable. At the hospital, doctors rushed Hana inside immediately. Aliya remained frozen outside the emergency room. Her body was exhausted, adrenaline fading, hands still shaking. Blood from old cuts on her knees had stained through her stockings again. She barely noticed. Min-Jae stood nearby, equally silent. Minutes passed, then an hour, then two. The waiting area was suffocating. Finally, a doctor emerged. She's stable. Aliya exhaled so sharply it sounded painful. Min-Jae stepped forward. What happened? Severe panic-induced collapse. Elevated stress response. Mild dehydration. Exhaustion. The doctor's expression darkened. She should never have been exposed to confinement given her trauma history. Min-Jae closed his eyes briefly. A stab of shame pierced him. He already knew. He knew. And still failed. She'll recover, the doctor added. But emotionally, this child needs stability. Safety. Consistency. Safety. The simplest thing. And somehow the hardest to guarantee. After the doctor left, silence settled again. Aliya sank into a chair, exhausted beyond words. Min-Jae sat beside her. For several moments, neither spoke. Then finally, you protected her. Aliya stared ahead. She needed someone. His gaze lingered on her profile. Soft but worn. Strong but visibly drained. This woman had absorbed humiliation, hunger, pain, and cruelty. Not because she lacked self-respect, but because she refused to abandon Hana. That kind of loyalty couldn't be purchased, couldn't be manipulated, couldn't be performed. It was real, and he had almost overlooked it completely. His voice softened. Thank you. Aliya blinked slightly. She turned to him. This was the first time she had ever heard genuine warmth from him. Not command, not observation. Gratitude. Simple. Honest. She gave a small nod. No words needed. Later that night, Hana finally woke up. Her eyes fluttered open slowly. Aliya was first to notice. Hana. The child looked disoriented, then immediately reached for Aliya. Tears filled her eyes. Aliya, I'm here. Hana clung to her tightly, like someone anchoring themselves after drowning. Min-Jae stood quietly at the bedside, watching. Something twisted painfully in his chest. Not jealousy, not resentment. Something more vulnerable. Regret. Because Hana reached for Aliya with instinctive trust. A trust he had not earned. And couldn't blame anyone for. He had been physically present, but emotionally absent. Aliya had filled the void. That reality humbled him. Weeks passed. Life changed drastically. So RA was gone. The mansion felt different almost immediately. Lighter. Warmer. Breathable. The staff relaxed. Meals became normal again. Tension dissolved from hallways. And most importantly, Hana began healing. Slowly. Carefully. She still had nightmares. Still startled easily. Still refused dark rooms. But she smiled more now. Laughed more. Talked more. Aliya remained her constant. But something else was quietly changing too. Min-Jae began noticing Aliya differently. Not just as Hana's caretaker, but as a woman. A presence. A person whose quiet resilience fascinated him. She never complained. Never sought praise. Never inserted herself unnecessarily. Yet somehow, she had become essential. One evening, he found her in the kitchen preparing tea. Far too late. You should be sleeping. Aliya looked up, surprised. So should you. A tiny smile tugged at his lips. Unexpected. Rare. She noticed it. And for a second, something shifted. Small, but undeniable. Their interactions became more frequent. Longer. Less formal. Late-night conversations over tea. Discussions about Hana's therapy progress. Occasional personal questions. What did you study before coming here? Aliya hesitated. Psychology. Min-Jae looked genuinely surprised. You studied psychology? She nodded. I didn't finish. Why? A beat passed. Life happened. He understood that answer more than most. No elaboration needed. Another night, he found her asleep at the dining table beside Hana's homework books, her head resting on folded arms. A blanket missing. Without thinking, he draped his coat over her shoulders. Aliya stirred awake slightly. Their eyes met. Close. Too close. Neither moved. Something electric passed silently between them. Then Hana suddenly walked in half asleep. Both stepped apart immediately. Timing. Cruel timing. But the tension lingered. Weeks later, spring arrived. Cherry blossoms painted the mansion gardens pink and white. For the first time, the property looked less like a fortress, more like a home. Hana ran across the garden laughing. Actually laughing. Chasing flower petals. Healthy. Bright. Alive. Aliya stood nearby watching her with a soft smile. Min-Jae approached quietly. They stood side by side. She looks happier. Aliya nodded. She feels safe now. Min-Jae turned slightly toward her. No. Aliya looked up. She feels loved. The words landed heavily. Not just about Hana. About all of them. Aliya looked away briefly, heart unsteady. Min-Jae studied her carefully, then asked the question he'd been carrying for weeks. Why did you stay? Aliya frowned slightly. What do you mean? You could have left. True. She could have. Many times. After humiliation. After starvation. After injury. After cruelty. She could have walked away. So why didn't she? Aliya watched Hana in the distance, then answered honestly. Because she needed someone to choose her. Min-Jae went still. That sentence hit him harder than expected. Because underneath those words was an accusation he knew he deserved. He had chosen duty. Provided shelter. Money. Security. But emotional presence? Protection from internal harm? That had fallen to Aliya. She had chosen Hana completely. And in doing so, had unintentionally exposed his own failures. Not maliciously. Just truthfully. He respected her more because of it. A long silence passed. Then Min-Jae did something unexpected. He reached for her hand. Slowly. Carefully. Not demanding. Not possessive. Just honest. As though asking permission. Aliya looked down at their hands. Then back at him. His face held none of his usual intimidation now. Only sincerity. Vulnerability. A rare openness few people would ever witness. She didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined gently. And in that quiet garden surrounded by spring blossoms, something new began. Not fantasy. Not impulsive attraction. Not rebound desire. Something far deeper. A relationship built on observation. Respect. Protection. Shared responsibility. And emotional trust forged through hardship. Months later, legal proceedings finalized. Soare lost everything. Access revoked. Assets disputed. Public image quietly damaged. Her social circle turned quickly once scandals began leaking. No dramatic revenge was necessary. Her own cruelty became her downfall. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, healing continued. Hana started therapy regularly. Her nightmares reduced. She redecorated her room with brighter colors. Requested fairy lights. Stuffed animals. Books. Signs of a child reclaiming childhood. Aliya officially became more than staff. Not formally announced. Not labeled immediately. But everyone knew. She belonged there now. Not because of status, but because she had earned her place through character. One evening during dinner, Hana suddenly looked between them, then asked innocently, Aliya, are you staying forever? Aliya froze slightly. Before she could answer, Min-Jae spoke. If she wants to. Hana grinned. Please stay forever. Aliya laughed softly. A real laugh. Warm. Unburdened. And in that moment, something inside her healed too. Because for so long, Aliya had been surviving. Moving. Working. Enduring. Never truly belonging anywhere. But now, she had found something unexpected. A home. Not perfect. Not conventional. But real. And perhaps that was enough. In the end, this story was never really about wealth. Or mansions. Or mafia power. It was about something much simpler. Who protects the vulnerable when no one is watching. Who remains kind when cruelty would be easier. Who stays when leaving would be justified. Min-Jae learned that love is not possession. Not status. Not grand declarations. Love is responsibility. Attention. Protection. Aliya taught him that loyalty cannot be purchased, only earned. Hana reminded them both that trauma can wound deeply, but healing is possible when someone chooses you consistently. And Soare, she became proof of a painful truth. Beauty without kindness is emptiness. Power without compassion is corruption. And status without humanity means absolutely nothing. Sometimes the people who save your life don't arrive looking powerful. Sometimes they arrive quietly, with tired eyes, gentle hands, and enough courage to stand between you and harm, even when no one else will. If you made it this far, let us know where you're watching from and comment your favorite moment below, like this video, and subscribe to @Physial_Threads for more emotional Mafia love stories.